Good morning, grade 8s, and welcome to our new health unit, human growth and development. So some topics that we're going to cover over the next few weeks include puberty, relationship safety, the idea of consent and the importance of it, gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. Those are different things, and we will touch on that. Contraception and safe sex practices. And finally, sexually transmitted and bloodborne infections, or STBBIs. Also, you may have heard these referred to as STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, or STIs, sexually transmitted infections. These are the same thing. They just are referred to in different ways depending on where you get your information. So step one, I would like everybody to watch that YouTube video that I posted on the Google Classroom. It's just going to give you a quick reminder and refresher of some important things to remember about puberty. Most importantly, the hormones involved in this time, estrogen and testosterone primarily, and the impact that they have on both your physical body, but also your mind. So it says, make your brain and body do all kinds of crazy things. Which leads us into relationships, because one of the things that people may experience is they begin to want to experiment with romantic or sexual relationships that they may not have had the desire to prior to puberty. So a relationship, as it says here, is the way in which two or more people or things are connected. They do not have to be sexual or romantic in nature. Relationships can differ depending on the social circumstances and people involved. We are all involved in numerous relationships right now, each which demands a unique set of social circumstances. So for example, I want you to think of the relationship you have with your parents and your friends. The way you talk, the way you act, the things you say, the expressions you use, they may differ immensely between both groups. They may not, but each social circumstance you enter and the relationships you find yourself in involve a different expectations. That's an important word. And romantic relationships are no different. So we're going to spend some time talking about relationship safety. First of all, it's important that you are able to understand the difference between a healthy and an unhealthy relationship, because they do both exist. I want you to brainstorm for a few minutes, and this is also related to your homework. Just think to yourself, what are some things that you associate with a healthy and an unhealthy relationship? Myself, in terms of healthy relationships, I would associate trust, friendship, consent, communication. In terms of an unhealthy relationship, I would associate things like deceit or lying, being a bad influence, bringing stress, and a lack of communication. So those are some things I would consider healthy and unhealthy in relationships. I want you to think about that, and I will be asking you to share your ideas at the end of this slideshow, so just keep that in the back of your mind. It's also important that an individual understands their relationship beliefs before entering a relationship. A person's relationship beliefs are going to differ from person to person, depending on your unique life circumstances. They may be personal beliefs, they may be family beliefs, they may be religious or cultural beliefs, but it's important that you understand what these are before entering into a relationship. It's also important that you think to yourself, what are the reasons you're entering or thinking of entering a relationship? Is it because all your friends are doing it and you feel pressured? Or is it because you think somebody likes you and you feel that's what you should do? You need to think about these reasons before entering a relationship. And it's also very important that you understand who you can ask for advice. It's important that you have an adult or an older person in your life that you can talk to, that you can ask questions. Adults have been through relationships and have some experience in this realm, and they certainly can offer you an objective opinion and be of assistance in answering your questions. So I've put that image up here, just taking a little bit of a turn here, but we're talking about relationships. I don't want anyone to think in their head that a relationship has to be between a man or a woman. Relationships come in very many shapes and sizes. And what I've posted here is a little bit of, I guess you could call it a spectrum of the queer community. And it's you've probably heard the term LGBTQ, but it is constantly being updated as more and more as this is better understood. Currently, it's referred to as LGBTQQIAAP. It's a little bit of a mouthful. As you can see, it is an acronym. Each letter stands for a specific word. So lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, transsexual, queer, questioning, intersex, ally, asexual, and pansexual. I just wanted to display this for you now, just so everybody has an idea of this, these diverse topics or labels, I guess you could say. We will be revisiting this later on and talking more about it. So on to the idea of consent. This is a very important topic, and it's very important that we all understand what consent is. So first point there, what is consent? I'm going to jump to the next slide quickly. This is a little bit of a mouthful, but as it says there, consent means to make a mutual, voluntary, informed decision between clear-minded, of-age participants before any and every sexual act. I know it's a little bit of a mouthful. I will go back to that and break it down a little bit slower for you. But let's move on for now. Why is consent important? Consent is extremely important to maintain the dignity and trust involved in any sexual relationship. And it is not optional. It is a mandatory thing that must take place and should be communicated clearly. As it says there, how should it be communicated? It shouldn't be communicated through text message or email or even phone conversation. Consent should be communicated in person and does not only need to be given once. Consent is something that should be given before any and every sexual act, as it says in the definition there. Can you remove consent once it's given? Absolutely. Consent is not a free pass. It is at the will of the individual or individuals involved to maintain or remove that consent at their free will. So I'd like to spend just a minute or two on this definition because it is a little bit of a mouthful. We're going to break it down slowly. So consent, to make a mutual meaning all parties involved agree. It's not forced by any one party on the other. Voluntary, it's similar meaning. It is a voluntary action from all parties involved. It's not they're not threatened into it. They're not forced or coerced. It is by their own free will that they're making this decision. And the decision that they're making is an informed decision, meaning they are educated on the topic. They have spent some time to think about the consequences of their actions, the potential negatives and positives of the sexual act that they're about to take place in or choose to take place in. Between clear-minded, meaning no drugs or alcohol are involved. There's no coercion. There's no deceit. The individual making the decision is able to make their decisions without any influence involved. Of age participants, of course, because sexual action between two participants does require a specific age. And as it says, before any and every sexual act. So it's not just once you get consent once and you're good. No, it's every single time prior to a sexual act, you need to get consent. That's important. So this brings us to our homework for the week. It's a quick and easy. You should have no problem with it. The first part is I want you to, you'll see an attached Google Doc on the assignment, which has a table for you to fill out. And I want you to write down some of your brainstormed ideas about healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships, 5 features of each. The table will offer you a chance to elaborate a little bit if you choose. You can write in full sentences, of course, and please do be as elaborate as you'd like. I say that because the second part here is a word cloud that we'll be creating, which, if you don't know what it is, I will be displaying it at the end of the week, and it's going to be a visual display of our whole class's opinion on the features of unhealthy and healthy relationships. So what you need to do is go to menti.com, and we're going to do this twice. The first time, it's going to ask you to enter a code, and you're going to enter this first code here, 990209. It will prompt you with the question, what does a healthy relationship have or lack? And your answers do need to be just one word, so try to be as concise as possible. And then once you've answered all three, you're fine to close the browser window, and then I want you to reopen a new window, go to menti.com again, and you're going to enter the second code, 371993, which will prompt you to answer the second question, what does an unhealthy relationship have or lack? Same process, you're going to answer with just one word and give your top three answers. This is going to display all of your answers visually, and the more popular an answer is, the larger a word will become. So it's quite a unique way of displaying student data. And by the way, it is all anonymous. I won't know who answered what, so you don't have to be concerned about that. So I look forward to hearing your responses there, and just get me in your tables by the end of the week, by Friday.